You know what we need? We need what the Olympics had, which was Kevin Hart and Snoop Dogg doing post match analysis of, hey, what the fuck is going on with this?
Well, see, that's the one thing I think Fox is doing a terrible job of, is get Chad Ochocinco out of there. He's terrible. I don't need to see him.
He's terrible, man.
Terrible.
Give me the NBA TNT crew.
Chuck, how about that Denver defense?
It was terrible. But just terrible. Their defense offended me. That's how bad it was. It was crazy. They need to be all over Kobe Bryant, just like we need to be all over Kim Jong-il. Kim Jong-il is nuts. He's going to blow up the world because he's a knucklehead.
Give me Ernie Johnson.
Shaq.
Ernie, Shaq, and Chuck. Just let the boys get after it.
Not knowing a damn thing about the sport.
Yep.
Just let them go.
Yep.
Siemi bakiyoko, oh yeah. Samina mina, Edward Mende, Samina mina Sam Sadakte. He comes from Senegal.
And I think going out and get Saul was the top transfer of the market for Chelsea.
Chesney could have been in the shower smoking a cigarette like he was at Arsenal, and we still would not have scored.
My rants have been fueled by Scott. Don't get it twisted.
Big Rom. Man, fuck you.
In Roman we trust, right?
You and me are going to have a battle royale about Jorginho and diving.
The flag stays down!
Welcome to the Flag Stays Down podcast. Make sure to subscribe, rate, and review on Spotify, Apple, or wherever you get your podcasts. Before we get started, shout out to those of us catching it on Twitch. You can catch us every Sunday evening, usually around 8:30 p.m. Central Time. Just search at Flag Down Pod. But tonight, we're back to having a full house once again. So we'll start with a man who has one less goal than Robert Lewandowski in the World Cup, and that'd be Matt at Matus Lee. And then you've got a man who has as many World Cup wins as Canada does in its entire history. Parker at DJ Parkour. And you've got myself, Andy, at Comiskey North. Parker, how you doing?
Oh, just lovely. No, it's a good holiday weekend, man. It's always fun to take a couple of days and relax and try to recharge a little bit. Unfortunately, I picked up a bit of a bug, so apologies if I don't sound 100% today. But yeah, I came off. Anytime you hang out with the kiddos, I've got 5 nieces and nephews. They usually pick something up this time of year and love to hang out and cuddle and get all up in you. So needed to get home yesterday and rest and try to shake some stuff off. But on the recovery, drinking a beer. So life's good. And there's been plenty of soccer on. Haven't caught as much of it as I would have loved to, but still been a joy to follow it and kind of track where things are at. So all in all, man, life is good. How about you, Matt?
Yeah, it's been an interesting week. So I became an uncle on Wednesday. So shout out to my brother and my sister-in-law, introducing Sienna Kayleen into the world. So happy about that. Everybody's doing well. And then went up to my wife's family for Thanksgiving. So we did that and then came back home and worked on the basement. So it's just been kind of a constant flow of activity all week. But no, it was as relaxing as one could expect. So yeah, super excited to just get back with the boys on a Sunday night and get back to normal life. Collins, how about you? I know that you were traveling a little bit.
Yeah, I spent the last 5 days down in Kansas City visiting my sister. Always great to get back to Kansas City when it's not work related. Made the stop in local coffee shops there, some brewery, and of course watch lots of soccer. This is the most soccer I've watched consecutively in a very long time. I made the goal of watching every single match, with a 9-hour drive that gets a little challenging. But thank God for Sirius XM radio, because I get to just listen to all of it. So it's been a fantastic World Cup, and I'm riding high right now. But before we get into that World Cup talk, let's cheers to the player that has the number of this episode. Boys, we're starting to get up there in numbers. We're at 16 this week. So here's your list: Edward Mendy, Raul Mireles, Ian Robin, Roberto Di Matteo. It's been a while since we've had a solid number. This is a good one.
I'm gonna go Di Matteo, not necessarily for the playing career, but for a guy that kind of came in as a makeshift manager and took us to the promised land. He'll always kind of be in a somewhat legendary status for what he did back in 2012, taking us to our first Champions League win. So I'm gonna give it to Di Matteo.
Wow, that's a tough one. I'm gonna have to go Mendy. Just not for the current form that he's in right now, but came in and kind of turned the world upside down when he came in with Chelsea. Robin, he kind of made his bread and butter when he moved to Bayern. So that's kind of how I've always viewed him. And Collins, I know where you're going to go with it. I can feel it already. And that's why I'm not going to say that. just to poke the bear a little bit, but yeah, for me, I would have to go Mendy.
Matt, I think we're on the same page here. I'm going Raul Mireles.
Talk about doing it the hard way. Raul Mireles is roosted in front of the Benfica fans, and Chelsea are going to the Champions League semi-finals now.
The hand flip goal, or the celebration, is legendary. It was one of my favorite goal celebrations, one of my favorite goals of all time, the Champions League against Benfica. I mean, just for that celebration alone, I got to go for Mireles. But I do want to give honorable mention to two players off the board, Kennedy and Marco van Ginkel.
Oh, lone army specialist Marco van Ginkel.
Torn ACL specialist Marco van Ginkel.
Seriously. And then the always in preseason, never in the season, Kennedy, who always has like a sliver of hope, will score a goal to kind of keep him in the conversation and then go off to Flamenco or wherever the hell he goes.
Do we know where he went, by the way, this year?
I have no idea.
He's probably still hanging out at Cobham, hiding.
He was at Newcastle for a season. I know that, but
that's right.
Yeah.
All right. Well, let's cheers to all these 16s with our Mobcraft beer. And Parker, which one are we drinking tonight?
Ooh, we've got Oddball, which is funny because it's the most traditional kind of style beer that they've got, which makes it odd to them. I kind of love that reverse psychology that they use on it. But I know we're not allowed to pick favorite children, right, boys? But I'm a Kolsch fan, kind of first and foremost. It's kind of my bread and butter for what I drink normally, and so I was gravitated towards this beer before I even tried it, and it's a real smooth drinker, and I just really like the Kolsch variety of beers. So yeah, it's delicious.
Amen to that. Cheers to number 16 with Mobcraft Oddball Kolsch.
It's kind of an oddball group of folks too, if you think about it.
Right.
That's putting it nicely.
All right. Well, on tonight's pod, we're going to discuss the U.S. men's national team through their first two fixtures in the FIFA World Cup. We'll also talk about how Chelsea players have fared in this tournament. And finally, we'll give just some general thoughts on the tournament thus far. Maybe some sleeper picks, some surprise teams, standout players, etc. But we'll start with the U.S. men's national team. Fresh off a 0-0 draw with England. So the debate is not yet settled, whether it's soccer or football. But Matt, we'll start with you wearing the U.S. men's national team kit. How's the U.S. look?
They look hungry. And I like to see that. You see the tenacity, you see, I think, the fight, especially, we've talked a lot about, defensively, like the U.S. has been shaky, especially if we go back to, 2018 World Cup qualifying, just it was kind of a nightmare, just letting in easy goals and stuff like that. So I like the fight. I like the fact that Tim Ream is coming into his own. He's finally given a chance, and he is the heart of that defense. I don't think it's Walker Zimmerman at all, and I think we can all agree on that. But Tim Ream has been as solid as you can ask any central defender to be throughout this World Cup. Tyler Adams is all over the place. The American N'Golo Kante, basically. He is playing outside of his mind right now. Weston, he is playing well, especially during the England game. You saw a couple dipsy doos and things like that. So he was really feeling the game out well. Unfortunately, he is still coming back from injury, so you have to be a little bit cautious of that. And he was on the yellow. Anthony Robinson, I think, is doing okay. I don't think there's really a better option back there. Serginho Dest has been, I think, for me, a little bit hit or miss. Not really sure what you're going to get out of him. And with him on a yellow, it's a little bit tough, but I think our midfield is playing really well. And I don't think that's something that we're used to. Going back to the days of, Michael Bradley and the Jorginho-esque back passes and everything like that. So I feel like we're definitely a more attack-minded team. We're definitely playing at a level that definitely checks the eye test. England, I didn't think played great, but at the same time, I thought that the U.S. played extremely well. So it's definitely a big win on that front. Again, we have questions with the attack. Who's going to score the goals? Tim Weah had the one against Wales. Christian is doing, I think he's doing about as much as he can. I mentioned in our group chat, he should be taking corners for Chelsea because his service during the England game was fantastic, but there was nobody there. That's just classic Chelsea right there. But I like the way that the team is playing. I'm nervous against Iran. I guess that's how I kind of look at it, because we drew with Wales. Iran beat Wales 2-0. So I feel like on paper, we look at one of these things and be like, oh, well, we're playing Iran. We should win, 2-0, 3-1, whatever. They are not a joke. I think they're 20 overall in the FIFA World Rankings, something like that. But they're a good team, and I really just hope that the U.S. is not taking them lightly. We have to win. A draw will not do. So we have to throw everything that we have. And I'm really hoping that the U.S. can capitalize on opportunities, especially in the final third. We've seen opportunities kind of squandered throughout this World Cup. And as long as we can be clinical in those opportunities, then I think that we can handle our business. But so far with the two matches, I like what I've seen. I think it's a much different US team than what we've been used to over the last, 5 years.
Last 8 years, right? I mean, going back to the last World Cup that they played in too. Totally agree with you, Matt. I did just look it up. Iran is number 20 after the win against Wales. They moved up to 20th. They're the top ranked team in Asia right now. So yes, not the easiest of opponents. But if you told me at the beginning of the World Cup, it's beat Iran and you're in the final 16, that's about as good of a situation or a draw as you can kind of ask for. I mean, Wales could have kind of run away with it, and I think they're a better team on paper than both us and Iran. So it could have been a 2-horse race up top, and I think that control your own destiny, winning your in situation against a team that's not in the top 20 in the world right now is more than fair to get into the final 16 of a tournament. So I like our chances. I'm nervous, obviously, because it's win or go home kind of football, but yeah, that's the type of stuff you play for. And the boys have shown enough up until this point to show that they can get after it and they can play. I think the second half against Wales was a bit of a letdown. I would have loved to see more out of that. I think we let off the gas and brought on a lot of much too much pressure. And then the penalty that was given away was cheap. Bale had his back to the goal, and Walker just kind of clattered through him. I mean, just kind of got nothing of the ball, took out Bale. It's just a kind of a silly pen to give up. Turner had a hell of an effort to save it too. He got what looked to be a fingertip on it, but props to Bale for kind of putting it home with some power. I saw a lot of good in that Wales match. I saw a lot of good in the England match too. So the standout for me is Tyler Adams. He's kind of proven himself as a box-to-box, kind of that guy that we would love to see at Chelsea. We've talked about that, the lack of a box-to-box true defensive mid that can get forward and distribute. And I love the comparison, Matt, the English N'Golo Kante. I mean, he looked to be everywhere. Every time he looked up, he was kind of instigating something or being a disturbance on the defensive side. So those are the players that you're going to start to come to see your own. But two things I wanted to bring up. One, everyone talks about US soccer and the viewership and things like that. And the game on Monday against Wales drew a pretty solid amount of people. I think it was like 13 million viewership on a Monday afternoon at 1 p.m., which is great to see. Black Friday was the most viewed men's soccer game in American history, which it's just cool to see. We're not in a final and we're still pulling in some big numbers. It's got a lot of people's eyes. It's got a lot of people's attention right now. And it seems like big things are coming. And so what I wanted to do quick was just read off some of the ages of what people will be at next World Cup, because it's going to be pretty exciting. Timothy Weah, who's 22 right now, he'll be 26. Josh Sargent will be 26. Pulisic will be 28. Jordan Morris, he'll be 31, so not a little bit old, but Gio Reyna will be 23. Aronson will be 25. Musa will be 23. I mean, these guys are going to be in the prime of their career. Tyler Adams will be 27. Like, that's prime, age for footballers. So whatever we do this World Cup, it's going to be looked to just get expounded on next World Cup. I mean, it's got to be sky high expectations. So I think you kind of build the establishment right now and then look to build off of it in the years coming. They don't have much of an expectation this World Cup, but there will be a big one for the next.
Parker, I'm glad you made that last point there about expectations. But as I mentioned on this pod before, my dad does not know a lot about soccer. He tries, he does, and we talk about it. I try to educate him as much as possible. Shout out to Mark here, but he asked me this week when we were down in Kansas City, why are expectations so high with this team? And I said, I don't think internally, I don't think US soccer has, quarterfinals set as an expectation with this team. I think with the US being out of the World Cup for the last 8 years, I think with this being kind of the beginning of a golden generation, you could say, more exposure than ever. I think the media expectations and the every 4-year fans is through the roof. And I think those need to be tempered a little bit because, like you said, this is a very young team. We're playing with house money in this tournament here. What it's really about is 2026 at home. And so whatever experience they can build here, I think is crucial. Now, that being said, they absolutely can get out of this group. And, you know, they talked with, who was it from the English team? Jordan Henderson. BBC was talking with Jordan Henderson and asked him, you know, is it time to start treating the US basically like a big boy team? And he said, well, we already were. Like we were treating like that before the game. So I think globally people see the US rising here. Now it's just a matter of, you know, tempering those expectations for now and building up into the next World Cup. I will say, though, that I like what I've seen so far. Matt, you touched on Tim Ream. I think he's been our player of the tournament. He's been fantastic back there. And I think it's honestly a testament to what U.S. soccer did prior to the last World Cup. Did not work. Bringing players home to MLS. Yes, it's a great marketing ploy. Yes, it's going to make you some money domestically, but it's not good. It's not good for the team. It's not good for the future of the program. Tim Ream has been in at Fulham for a very long time. And you're seeing his experience and you're seeing the experience of all these guys who are playing overseas. You talk about players who have struggled. Walker Zimmerman plays domestically here in Nashville. Jordan Morris, I was surprised he came on the other day against Wales. He didn't look great. Plays for Seattle. Kellen Acosta was kind of a nothing, I would say. Plays for LAFC. I think the blueprint is set and it's go overseas.
Yedlin's another one too. He just,
Yes.
underwhelmed when he came on, and it just feels like they're missing a step, right? They're just not playing at the same level as the other guys who are more used to, playing at a high level.
Yeah, and I mean, Yedlin is, I think of him as kind of an anomaly because he did play with Tottenham. He played with Newcastle. So he has played up at that level and then came back to
Inter Miami.
Inter? Yeah. He's been with Inter for 2 years. And he's not the same player. Like, we know that, but at the same time, what other options do we really have back there? I mean, Shaq Moore, credit to him, he did okay, but if he's our backup, like we definitely need help at those spots. But no, I completely agree. Like, we need more players that play domestically that have more experience in MLS. And as much as it pains, the MLS fan base to hear me say this, the MLS is still nowhere near, not even in the same realm as European soccer. Like, we're not. We saw the reports of I was actually talking to my buddy Danny today about this, and he's not a big football guy, so he was asking me just random questions. He goes, so are all these guys from MLS? I'm like, no. And so I was explaining to him, like, well, there are big names that come in, right? Like, there's that Bale guy for like some LA team. I'm like, yeah, but when they come to MLS, they're at the end of their careers. And it's not like somebody in their prime is coming to MLS on purpose. I'm sure we've all seen the reports that Messi is coming to Inter Miami next year, but again, he's 35. So he's going to be showing up to MLS at 36 and probably just going to absolutely destroy MLS. The same way that all the big names do, right? We saw it with Thierry Henry with Red Bulls. Absolutely destroyed everybody. Zlatan was there for a year, wreaked havoc over everybody. Chicharito, not a huge name, but still a very, very competent striker. He's doing great things over there. Like, unfortunately, you see all these players at the end of their career and they're still doing extremely well at the end of their careers against MLS players in essentially their prime. Like that, it's. I understand the reasoning behind it, but it's not a good look for MLS. Like you're saying that we can bring in somebody who's old and I don't want to use washed up, but somebody who's definitely on the decline of their career and they're still able to make fools out of most of MLS. To me, it's just not a good look. Parks, to your point, it's a young team. You know, I'm excited to see what 2026 brings. My only question is, do we think that this core team is a team that can handle pressure?
Well, one of the issues, and I think that's building pressure, is, you know, where are the goals going to come from? You can only rely on Pulisic so much. Gio Reyna is apparently still not healthy. I don't know.
Nobody knows.
There were some reports too that he's not getting along with Berhalter too, so I don't know what to really believe about it, but who knows.
So, you know, you've got Aronson, but let's focus on the striker here, because we've seen two very different strikers in this tournament. We've seen Josh Sargent, you know, currently on fire in the championship at Norwich. And then you got Haji Wright, who, you know, playing in the Turkish league, not as accessible here in the US, but he's tearing up the Turkish league. And outside of that, you know, you got Jordan Morris, but we're not even going to count him in there. You know, who do you start against Iran as your starting striker?
I liked what I saw with Sargent in that first half. So I personally would pick that. I don't know enough about the other guy to really comment on it, but I've seen Josh, you know, play at a high level. So, you know, I would lean towards experience at a higher level, because, you know, he was in the Premier League last year. So that's where I would tip my cap.
To me, it depends on the approach, right? Do you want somebody to score goals, or do you want a hold-up striker? I feel like that's really kind of cut and dry with Sargent and Wright. Wright is the second coming of Josie Altidore. He's a big, strong hold-up guy, and that's about it, at least so far. That's how I saw him against England. That's pretty much everything that I saw against him. He's a big body. He's a big guy. Fine. Can he score the goals at the international level? Remains to be seen. I don't know. I think he was kind of a surprise pick when the rosters came out. I'm not going to act like I know everything about him, because I don't. But yeah, he might be tearing up the Turkish league, but I think we all can agree it's the Turkish league. So
he has 3 international caps, by the way, for the US.
Yeah. Like it's a tough spot for him to be in. But I don't know. I don't know what the plan is. I don't know enough about the Iranian defense to be able to say, yeah, they got big bodies back there at center back, so we need somebody strong and physical who can deal with that. But for me, if you need goal scoring, I think you need Josh Sargent up top in this match to start.
See, I like Haji Wright. You know, I remember initially when he went from Cosmos to Schalke. I think at the time he was playing with the U17s for the US, and he was scoring like a goal a game or something like that. Some ridiculous amount of goals. But I remember that being a big deal, and he's kind of bounced around Europe. He's played in various leagues. I think he's played in Germany, Denmark, Turkey. Like I think he has the experience that you're looking for. You know, in terms of seeing various different looks, various different systems, various different ways of defending. And honestly, from what I've seen out of Iran, not only in this World Cup and in previous World Cups, is that they're going to stay compact and they're going to try to beat you up. They're going to beat you in the trenches. And Haji Wright, I think, is more of a complete player. He's not, he's certainly not a Pele or Cristiano Ronaldo or Messi or whatever. But but he can play with his back to a goal. He can play facing you straight up. He can run at you. He can body you. So if they're going to bully us, you fight fire with fire. I think honestly putting a big strong guy out there is better than putting little Josh Sargent out there just to get beat up. But with that being said, if the plan doesn't work, one thing I want to see is Greg Berhalter adjust his tactics, which I haven't seen at all in this World Cup. Meanwhile, he's going up against one of the best international coaches at this World Cup in Carlos Queiroz, who has set the I can't remember. He's been on the like tactics board for FIFA for countless years, teaching youth coaches and international coaches tactics and strategy. Greg Berhalter's got to step his game up. That's how I'll end that.
Collins, do you still think Berhalter's a little bit on the hot seat? I mean, if they lose this match or draw to Iran, I mean, do you think he's gone?
I think for the fan base, he's on the hot seat and he's gone. But we know, we've heard all the stories about all the ties he has to the executives in U.S. soccer and how flawed the process was in hiring him. It would not surprise me if he survived, if the U.S. did not. That being said, I've been saying it for years now. I want him gone. He's not. He's the equivalent of Gareth Southgate. He's a League One manager. He's a championship manager. He can't manage a top international team.
So realistically, who would you, and I know this is a very loaded question, who would you pick to replace him realistically?
I mean, it depends how much money the U.S. is looking to throw around. I have a feeling that if Berhalter's gone, that they're going to hire another American manager, probably from MLS, maybe a Caleb Porter.
Who's the Union head coach?
Oh yeah, I can't think of his name, but I know who you're talking about. I could see him getting a promotion there.
Yeah.
I wouldn't mind Jose Mourinho. I think he would be a great option. I know who you're thinking with your question. Name rhymes with Timmy Tuchel.
No, I actually don't have an answer for that of who I would want. So I'm just curious as to your thoughts on it. Like, if Berhalter does go out, like realistically, who could we replace him with?
Well, who's going to be sacked in the next couple of weeks is going to be Roberto Martinez. I would love him to come in. He was rumored to be interviewing when Berhalter was hired. I would love for him to come in and add a little bit more technical flair to this team than what Berhalter has.
And I saw some statistics. I think they were talking about like if Southgate got fired, who was like I think bettors already have kind of odds-on favorites to replace him. And Tuchel's I think the second closest odds or nearest the money. So pretty good chances for him to go there if that's the case. And so you would obviously look at the U.S. as a step down from a managerial perspective, but definitely not out of the question.
So let me throw this one at you. I'll throw this one at you, Matt, because I know you've watched a little bit more of this World Cup than Parker has. Hervé Renard from Australia. He's got experience with smaller international teams and building them up to be winners.
I don't hate it. I don't know. It's weird, and I feel like it's a dynamic with the U.S. Like, they want to grow the game internally, so they probably want like a U.S. manager and things like that. If you look at our last few World Cup managers, right? We had Michael Bradley or Bob Bradley, and then wasn't Bruce Arena part of that too? Jurgen Klinsmann, yeah, he was maybe kind of a one-off, and that was not great. But like I wouldn't be upset with some outside blood coming in and taking over and giving us a different perspective of maybe what we're doing wrong, what the rest of the world is doing. Because I feel like we're kind of siloed in the fact that this is US soccer. We want everything to be US, right? Team America. Like, that's just how we are. But in order to grow, you also need an outside perspective. And I think with what we're seeing with the players that are, more on the domestic side of, playing in Europe, that are playing more abroad and having them come back, you might need somebody that can handle at more of a European level or a club level than you would an international level. So I think that's definitely going to be a US, well, it's obviously going to be a US soccer decision, but if we have an opportunity to go get somebody abroad, I would not be opposed to it.
I really like Adrian Heath, manager of the Minnesota United. He's English player, had a pretty fantastic English career. He's 61, so I think that's the only like true downside. He's a little on the older side, but he's done a lot with Minnesota United, and he brings a real like passion to his managerial style, and he really buys into a team atmosphere and a clubhouse atmosphere, and kind of gets guys to buy into picking each other up and defending each other and covering for each other. It's very like a cohesive kind of way. And Minnesota United was a promoted USL team that became an MLS team and has had some success. They're not the best team in the MLS, but has had some success and had a lot of their best players picked over, the first couple of years after they had a lot of success, and still kind of remain in the conversation, which is really positive to see, especially considering Minnesota is not the hugest market to draw in the MLS, and it's pretty effing cold when it's an outdoor stadium. But there's a passionate fan base here, and there's a reason for it, and a lot of it's due to Adrian Heath. So I would not mind kind of that unique English player, English manager, but also MLS knows US stuff and US soccer as well. So kind of that unique hybrid.
Collins, the manager that I'm looking for, Jim Curtin. That's the Philadelphia Union manager. I like him and everything that he's done, because for a while Philadelphia was
a laughing
stock of MLS, and to be able to bring that team back and be one of the best clubs in MLS, like that's impressive. And I think that he would be able to do a good job with the talent that would be at his disposal. So that would be my pick.
All right, well, let's real quick turn to Chelsea players at the World Cup. There are 12 of them. Just through this first week and a half, 2 weeks, who has been the standout Chelsea player at the World Cup?
I can't say Olivier Giroud, right?
Honorary mention.
I think it's got to be Kovacic, actually. I'll just say that. I think he's been pretty phenomenal. I've seen his stats at the end of games, and they've just been lights out the way he's been dominating for them.
Yeah, I would completely agree. I think the only other person that would be close to Kova would be Ziyech, only because like he is the big name on that team besides Hakimi. Like Ziyech is that guy for Morocco. With Kova and Croatia, like I watched their match today. Kova's all over the place, just doing whatever he wanted. It was almost laughable at times, but he's just that good. International or domestic, whatever. He is just that good. So for me, I would say it would have to be Kova.
I would say if we're looking at today's game against Canada, Croatia, Canada, Kovacic would be, the star player, but he struggled in that Morocco match. Struggled for fitness, struggled to finish out that 90. The midfield of Morocco was bossing him pretty well. So I don't know. I think honestly it has to be the Rock, Thiago Silva. The guy looks like he's 25 years old out there, not 38. Could he play in another World Cup? Maybe. That'd be great. But for me, it's Thiago Silva captaining Brazil and Brazil doing Brazil things.
You got to give at least an honorable mention though to Christian, who is it's taken some man of the match awards, and so is Ziyech. And Christian, he's definitely not had his best World Cup that he could possibly have, but he's shown up. I mean, he's doing Christian things. He's looking good. He's definitely not. He's definitely rising up to the moment and not kind of hiding away in the shadows. And so he's got big shoulders to play on for this US team, and he's risen to the challenge.
Yeah, I would agree. I mean, he's not putting up 3 goals in his first 2 matches or anything like that, but I think with Christian, like, he's doing a lot of kind of the dirty work that doesn't go on stat sheets, and that's kind of stuff that we love. Get in there, do that, even if you're the star player, right? We love to see our star players getting in there doing the dirty work, right? If we talk about like somebody like Giannis going in, taking a charge, you wouldn't expect that of somebody of his caliber to go in and take a charge. But he does it, and that's the stuff that we love. He's doing a lot of that. He is creating opportunities, and I'm pleasantly surprised with how well Christian is doing so far under the enormous amount of pressure that he's under during his first World Cup.
All right, well, let's turn to the World Cup as a whole here, not just the U.S., not just Chelsea. But we'll go through some categories, some award categories here. And with 2 teams eliminated right now, Canada and Qatar, and the second round of fixtures, well, they'll be finished up by the time this pod releases. Who's your pick to win the tournament?
Oof.
France. And they were one of my top 2 before the tournament started. They look quite good. I know they haven't played as tough of competition as others have, but France looks great, and they look like they have this endless supply of attack and players at all positions. So they like to score goals, and I feel like this World Cup has been one where goals have been at a premium. You haven't had too many games with more than 3 goals, so I think they'll have chances to beat a lot of teams with that.
I like France. I've been a France fan for a long time. I can't see them winning back-to-back World Cups, though they have looked good in the group stage. I'm going to go kind of dark horse here and say the Netherlands. They've got a sneaky good team with a good mix of veteran leadership and young players. And they're playing in a pretty tough group too, with Senegal and Ecuador in there. So I don't know. I think if they catch the right matchups, I think they've got a good chance to make it to the final, and then who knows?
I like Spain. Yeah, they drew 1-1 with Germany, but again, I don't know if that's a litmus test with Germany, because they're kind of all over the place. You catch them on one day and they are absolute dog shit, and then the next day they're the best team in the world. I like the young crop of talent that they have. And Parker, you talk about goals at a premium. Most of their young players are in the attack, so they're going to be able to go. So I like the chance of Spain getting there in counts, like you said, with the right matchups. I like their chances. Now, would I trust them, Spain against France? Probably not. But there's nothing to argue really against that, as far as, if Spain ends up winning, 4-0 in a semi, and France has to draw it out 1-1 and win on penalties, whatever, like anything can happen. So I do like do like Spain getting very deep into this competition.
All right. So on top of that here, who is one player that has caught your eye? Outside of the Mbappes, the Messis, your household names. One player has caught your eye who's kind of the standout player of this tournament so far.
Enner Valencia.
33-year-old Enner Valencia.
Boy can finish. Like, he has had a great start to his World Cup campaign, and they haven't been like necessarily the easiest of goals, but they're clinical goals that he should finish, and he has done that. So that would be my pick for the underrated or surprise player of the tournament so far.
Collins, I think I'm going to steal your thunder here, so I'm apologizing in advance. Because it was a guy that I saw a lot of reports about, big teams linked to his name, and I have never really seen him play, but that was Cody Gakpo. And, he's kind of come out for Netherlands and balled out and had some pretty stunning finishes and, taking his chances pretty well. And, we just don't get to catch the ins and outs of people playing every single week. It doesn't always happen. And one of the biggest question marks we always have is, what do they do against better competition? What would they translate to the Premier League? Things like that. And Cody Gakpo is the kind of guy that it seems like he's got the physicality and the talent to kind of translate into different leagues. So he's going to be one for me to watch kind of going forward.
I like him a lot. And yes, you did steal my thunder there. He does not look his age. He plays like he's in his prime. So I'd be very excited to see if he came to the Premier League. But to switch it up here, I will go the young German, Jamal Musiala. I like him a lot. 19 years old, not afraid to dribble at anyone. If I had $1 for every time Ali Wagner said that he was in between the lines, I'd have a lot of money. But he's a guy that England not only missed out on, but Chelsea missed out on. He's a Cobham graduate. Went to Bayern Munich kind of free and has played 70 matches with 20 goals at Bayern. And, for you can take that for what it's worth, with a grain of salt or whatever, but he's still doing it at a very young age, at 19, at Bayern Munich. I like him. I would like to bring him back, especially with our problems on the left wing.
Seriously.
All right, so back to teams here. One last question for you guys. This can be either a positive or a negative, but what's one team that has surprised you?
I actually have a couple. I mentioned Enner Valencia. Ecuador has surprised me. Their press is absolutely ridiculous. How they can go, how they can do that is beyond me, and more credit to them. But I think that they are having a very strong World Cup showing. The results may not account for it, but they are out there giving everything they have every single second. And I like watching them play. As far as if I were to look at a disappointing team, besides the obvious, which I think would be Germany, I would say Mexico. I'm very shocked at how poorly they are doing. They are a team that is built for something like this, and they just have not shown up for whatever reason. And I'm a big fan of Tata, their coach. Like, I'm a big fan of his, especially everything he did with Atlanta. I love it. I'm a big fan of him, but for whatever reason, this Mexico team is just not doing whatever they need to. And yeah, you can say Raul Jimenez isn't fully fit, but that's one player. You still have a very experienced team that just is not producing when they need to. So that I'm very shocked that Mexico is doing as bad as they are.
So I have to preface my answer by saying or reminding listeners that groups G and Group H have not had their second game. So this stat is very skewed because everyone else has played 2 matches. But I'm going to go ahead and say the African powerhouses, because the only African team that's doing something is Morocco, and I wouldn't ever really consider them a powerhouse. This World Cup had different African teams in it than we're kind of used to seeing. There was no Nigeria, there's no Ivory Coast. Ghana is sitting on 0 points. Cameroon is sitting on 0 points. And again, neither of those teams have played their second match. That's where the big caveat comes in. But then Senegal, who won African Cup of Nations, is sitting third in their group as well. So I understand that Sadio Mane makes a big difference on that team, and that's a huge kind of gaping hole for them. And it's tougher for them to score goals without him. That said, it seems like Africa has once kind of viewed as a powerhouse continent where you could expect some really good teams to kind of come through and make deep runs in World Cups, or at least get out of group stages in World Cups. It seems like the continent of Africa is at its lowest point that I've kind of seen since I can remember watching the sport. Usually we have one team to kind of link onto and celebrate with. And this year I understand Morocco's had a great World Cup, and it's great to see someone kind of stepping up to the plate, but it would have been nice to see one of those kind of familiar names. Surprise some people, really.
Parker, you stole my thunder again.
God damn it. Sorry. We have to coordinate this beforehand, right?
Right.
There's a storm brewing.
Pot after dark, baby. No, Ghana was going to be my team, but again, they've only played 1 match. But they looked really poor. Not poor. They just weren't on the same level as Portugal. A Portugal team, which I would say is down from where they're normally at. So, in terms of a positive, I think Australia has shown a lot of fight. I still don't think they get out of the group, but they've put in 2 pretty decent performances. It's hard not to give up, 5 goals to France, but they came out punching like a kangaroo. So I'll give Australia credit as a positive. Canada is my big negative. I know that it's their second ever World Cup. They've never actually won a World Cup match, as I alluded to earlier. But they've looked really not great. Like they went on the attack quite a bit, I would say, in their 2 matches. But they have the same problem all of CONCACAF does: is where are the goals going to come from? And when they're not scoring, you can see the frustration build. So, yeah, I think Canada had a real chance to get out of this group, especially with an aging Belgium, a Morocco that's, is kind of a dark horse, and Croatia has an aging Luka Modric. So I think they had a shot, and they kind of blew that opportunity.
You Matt, you kind of just quick alluded to Germany, but man, to see them sitting on 1 point after 2 World Cup group stage matches, I think surprises everybody. Japan getting a big win there is definitely an interesting one of a shifting of powers, if you will.
Yeah, I think this World Cup, above all others, has told us to expect the unexpected. And we can throw FIFA and all that other backwater bullshit into this whole thing, but expect the unexpected, right? Nobody expected Saudi Arabia to beat Argentina, right? Nobody expected Japan to beat Germany. There have been so many close games, so many upsets, I remember watching the Ghana-Portugal game. Holy hell. I had the TV on in the garage watching the Croatia-Canada game. I went inside for 5 minutes to help my wife with something, Next thing I know, I come outside. Croatia is up 2-1. I'm like, what happened? Like, everything can change that quick. So it is a very exciting World Cup. It is very on edge. Like, regardless of if you support the team or not, all the games are very intriguing unless you get like, the 6-1, England versus Iran, or the 7-0 Spain win. Like, yeah, but a lot of these games are, I think, a lot closer and a lot more contested than a lot of people probably thought that they would be. So I'm here for all of it. I'm very excited to keep watching and see how this all plays out.
I'll give a really quick shout out to Qatar. Just the fact that they showed some fight in the Ecuador match. I mean, I know it didn't look like they were going to pull off a win, and when they did score their goal, Ecuador scored again to, put them up by 2, and so it's pretty comfortable for them. They showed some heart at the end of that game and created 5-6 opportunities to score, and then scored one of them. And so even Qatar, showed some fight and showed that upset was kind of in the works, or a potential to happen.
Yeah, I've been blowing you guys up in the group chat consistently with this phrase, and it's that this is the most exciting World Cup that I've seen in years. Like, probably going back to South Africa. That was, I mean, that tournament was a wild ride. Did not see Uruguay coming out of nowhere. Spain was crazy in that one. The Dutch were crazy in that one. It was a crazy tournament. Brazil was interesting to watch because Brazil, like, can they win it at home? The Russian World Cup was okay. I don't know. There wasn't too many memorable moments in that one, but this tournament has been nuts from start to finish. I'm a big fan. I don't want it to end, mainly because I don't want to go back to watching Chelsea. But all right. Well, I do just want to say, because we missed it in the pod here, that we are happy to have Mobcraft on as a partner in this podcast. In our build up here, which you can always catch on Twitch, just search for @FlagDownPod. I was talking about Black Friday beer releases. How it's not really a thing nationally; it's kind of an Upper Midwest thing. Mobcraft just released theirs on Black Friday. Kringle Monster 2022. Kringle Monster in general is fantastic. It's if you don't know what a Kringle is, it's like a Danish pastry that they make primarily here in the Upper Midwest. Usually got cherries, strawberries, something like that on the inside. Well, Mobcraft turned that into a beer. It's a pastry stout. And last year's was fantastic. I actually just picked up a pack of that a couple weeks ago. It is one of my favorite stouts, especially now as we're entering into winter, which is stout season. So I'm excited to get to Mobcraft. If you're in Milwaukee, if you're in Denver, make sure to hit up the tap room. They've got the 2022 Kringle Monster now on tap. And you can also go check out any of the beers that we drink here as well. As Parker mentioned earlier, we are drinking Oddball Kolsch. I just tapped into my Too Legit to Wit. So make sure to go check out Mobcraft if you're in the area. All right. Well, if you have enjoyed what you watched today on Twitch, we certainly appreciate that, and make sure to give us a follow there. Again, we're @FlagDownPod. We'll be broadcasting Sunday evenings, 8:30 p.m. Central Time. That's in the U.S. If you're busy on Sundays, or if you just like to listen to the podcast version because I edit it and it sounds a lot better, you can get that anywhere you get your podcasts. All that we ask is that if you are on Spotify or Apple, that you subscribe, rate, and review. Takes no more than 30 seconds, and you can talk all the shit you want, but please give us 5 stars. Helps us spread, what we do to the world. If you want to follow us on social media, please do. You can follow the podcast itself on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook @FlagDownPod. You can follow me, Andy. I'm at Comiskey North. You can follow Parker at DJ Parkour. You can follow Matt at Matus Lee. And finally, if you got any questions or comments you want us to address on air, we're always happy to read what you got. So either come join us live, like I said, on Sundays on Twitch in the chat, or you can always shoot us a DM on social media. So, boys, that's all I've got. Let's toast our Mobcraft beers to one hell of a World Cup. Let's hope it keeps up over the next couple weeks.
Cheers.
I'm all potted out.